well as in Georgia. They say you can go there and even see their pyramids that they built there. What I'm getting ready to give you are some quotes that a lot of scholars have written about the Olmecs and about their civilization that they found in Mexico. So, this is what I want to pass out to you. We're going to go over this.
Do they say where in New Orleans and
I got a video that talks about it.
all right.
I have a video that talks about it. We're gonna just go over there. It is likely that.
So you're short tonight?
No.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, take one there. Yeah, see, looking at bits and pieces of it, you're not gonna understand it. You have to see the whole thing, because there's part one and part two. Okay, looking at the quotes. It is likely that we repeat that long ago, the youthful America was also a Negro continent, and that the Otomies of Mexico, the Caracos of Haiti, and Matayas of Brazil, and the albinos of Panama are the remains of the aboriginal Negro race out of which developed later, which is known as the Red or American race. Excerpt from the scholarly Latin author C.C. Marquez, back in 1920. Now what he's talking about is about the remnants, what they have found in Mexico, demonstrating African features on statues and other monuments found in Mexico. And he wrote about it in his book, about these features that were found in Mexico. All right, who's gonna read the second quote?
Black people were present in America in the most ancient or pre-classical times. The startling fact is that in all parts of Mexico, archaeological pieces representing Negro or Negroid people have been found, especially in archaic or pre-classic sites. Excerpt from Dr. Alexander von Wolfenau's book, Unexpected Faces in Ancient America, 1992.
See, he's talking about the same thing. You know, in pre-classical times, a lot of times whites do not want to talk about pre-classical times. They only want to talk about classical history, which begins with Greece, see, for the Westerner. See, they don't want to talk about pre-classical times, which goes back before time was being kept by Europeans, you know, with the so-called death of this Jesus. You know, so therefore, this is when time started. But in pre-classical times, Africans kept time based upon the sun and had their own calendar. If you remember, I had said that the first calendar, the Egyptian calendar, had been created around 4,326 BC in Egypt. So African people had created the first calendar, and they had their own date that is contrary to Western concepts and Western time. Because if you think about it, if you talk about 1500, what was going on in Africa in 1500? And then you cross-reference it with what was happening in Europe in 1500 in BC. You'll find out nothing but savagery, cannibalism, all types of freaky behaviors, homosexuality. And these people did not even bury their people for the most part. They left their body there to rot wherever they died at. You know, African people taught people about fire, taught them about burying the remains of their loved ones. All right, who's gonna read the third one?
I just want to say something. African society was classical too.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying they had classical, but I'm saying pre-classical.
Yeah, no.
I'm saying pre-classical.
Primal
See,
and
this is
classical.
being before they kept time. See, they only want to deal with classical civilization once they started keeping time. But I'm talking about before.
But they were
Europeans.
classical societies.
They were
They
classical
decided
besides, but what I'm
before
saying,
They
Yeah.
even thought about
this is what I'm saying, they still kept time before the Europeans started his concept of time. Okay,
they were classical.
who's gonna read the next one?
Black people were the original people of Mexico. The almost extinction of the original Negroes during the time of the Spanish conquest and the memories of them in the most ancient traditions induce us to believe that the Negroes were the first inhabitants of Mexico. Excerpts from Nicholas Leon's book, Historia General de Mexico, Mexico 1919.
See, as far back as 1919, 1920, Mexicans were talking about their civilization and who founded, who were at the root of their civilization. See, but according to whites, we never did anything. See, our history doesn't start until slavery. See, but Mexicans were already giving credit to African people in terms of what they had done, what they had built, where their statues, where their monuments were found. The archaeological statues, the structures and monuments of themselves. See, but whites never wanted to give black people credit for their discoveries. All right, who's gonna read the next one?
I thought you said indigenous people built these monuments.
The indigenous people were African people.
Oh,
In
so
Mexico.
They came before.
They came before the American Indian.
Okay,
If,
all right.
if you follow what I'm reading, what did it say at the bottom of the first quote? You know, what did it say at the bottom of the first quote? Remains of Aboriginal Negro raised out of it came later, what was known as the red or American race. See,
Okay, all right.
that's what I'm saying. You know, yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
So, all right, who's gonna read the next quote?
It is indisputable that in very ancient times, the Negro race occupied our territory in Mexico. The Mexicans recall a Negro god,
Yes,
Exclusive,
Lil.
which means blackface. Dr. Riva Palacio, a Mexican scholar.
See what I'm saying? See, you know, it's not so ironic that other people of African descent have no problem giving it up to what we as African people have contributed, what they have found in their civilization that demonstrates that African people were here before Europeans were here. They have no problem giving it up. It's only the European who does not want to give up the information and be honest and truthful about what African people have contributed. But when you understand him and understand his history, his culture, and his nature, I do not want to validate you by talking about what you have contributed as an African person in the Americas, because that would mean that I would have to degrade myself. See? And I'm not gonna do that. See, so I paint the picture that you African people, you never did anything. One day you were just sitting on the banks of the Atlantic Ocean, waiting for a European to come with their ships. We were sitting there looking at our watch, saying, I was glad when the white man come get us, because we ain't doing nothing here. Your first goldsmiths, blacksmith, you know, these were African people, see? But they never talk about these things, about our contributions to civilization prior to contact with the Europeans.